Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks. And if you have been here before and you followed me along on this journey, then you're probably wondering, why is she saying Unleashing Happiness? Because I've been talking about possibly changing the name of the podcast. And I just come to the decision that I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with Unleashing Happiness. I've tried out the others and they just don't feel right to me. And this podcast is designed to teach you how to unleash some happiness back into your life, how to find your own joy and to find your spark and to truly lean into being the most authentic version of yourself. And that's what I want to teach people. I am here to show you that even if you feel like a faded, kind of worn out version of yourself, and even if you are struggling with feeling like you're worthy or that you deserve to have really wonderful things in life, or you kind of question, like, everything always goes bad for me, right? Like, have you ever thought to yourself, wow, things seem to work out better for other people than they do for me? Have you ever thought, I don't really know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm on autopilot. Have you ever woken up in the morning with your mind racing and been like, I don't know that this is what I wanted out of life. And I'm really kind of surprised that this is what it's all about, right? Is this all that there is to life? Is there more to life? And this podcast is really here to help you learn how to connect those parts of yourself again, right? How to connect back to the person that you want to be, how to make sure that you're connecting with your own happiness. And that level of happiness is going to be different for each and every one of us. What I view as happy in my like kind of baseline of happy is going to be likely very different than yours. And that is okay. I'm not expecting you to take over my personality or even the person, the personality of like your spouse or your partner or your good friends or your mom or your dad. It's really about you figuring out what works for you and you becoming that version of yourself that you want to be. And that's what I'm here to do, right? I've been in that position. I've woken up and said, man, like I'm overwhelmed. My mind is racing. I have 800 things to do and I have no idea when I'm going to get them done. I don't have the motivation to get up. I don't feel good in my own skin. I'm struggling, but I don't really know how to identify my struggle. And then I would go online and I would see these gurus who would talk about the stuff that I should do. And I'm like, well, when are you doing laundry? When are you like taking care of your kids? When are you cooking dinner? When are you sitting down? Because they had these elaborate, huge, like morning and night routines and daily routines that I'm like, that's wonderful that that works for you. That does not work in my life. And all that it became was another item on the checklist, right? It was another obligation where I'm like, well, now I'm supposed to do all this like other stuff that I don't have time for and I don't know how I'm going to fit it in. And I started to make small changes to my life. And with those small changes, it built. And then my identity shifted and the way I was talking to myself shifted. And it truly came down to self forgiveness and self compassion. And that's what I'm here to show others and to teach others. Here's how you can actually forgive yourself. Here's how you can have compassion for who you are and where you are. And here's how you can start making sustainable life changes without needing hours and hours of time because I don't know about you. I did not have that. I still don't have that. Like I'm doing my own business. I'm a mom. I like to get my dogs out for walks. I like to spend time reading. I enjoy to have a social life. I enjoy seeing my children and spending time with them. I help caretake for my mother. Like these were things that were very important to me. And I wanted to make sure that I also built in my self-care because I realized that the better that I took care of myself, the more I was able to give out to others. And I've seen this across hundreds of clients now at this point that I've talked to. It's like, well, yeah, once you start taking care of yourself, you become more creative. You start doing better at work. You are a more patient parent or a more patient caregiver, and you just start to feel better and have that energy that you're lacking and you're like able to figure out how to take the next step. And it doesn't need to be hours and hours and hours of your time in your morning. You can do this in small steps. And what is really shocking is that research has shown from Stanford that the more that you avoid self-compassion and self-care, the worse you're actually making your stress. So I think when people think, oh, this like self-care and self-compassion is going to take more time and I've got all this other stuff, all these other obligations I need to focus on, by you not taking that time out, you're actually increasing your stress levels. You're making it more difficult for you to be able to focus and to have the productivity to get the other things done. And that's why I always promote that like self care, self compassion, self forgiveness. This is not selfish, right? You taking that time for yourself is not selfish. It's actually a necessity. And the more that you do it, the more that you're actually able to give out to others. And I can tell you exactly how to get that back, how to reconnect with that doesn't just take over your life. That's not hours of meditation. It's not sitting in a cold plunge every morning because no, thank you. I have no desire to do that. But it's real and true self care and having compassion for the human that you are. Seeing your story through a compassionate lens, changing the perspective of the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you treat yourself, and the things that you feel like you deserve in life. What might be really shocking, I think, for a lot of people to hear is that when you are going through these like spirals, well, let's take a step back, right? Let's say that you, or I'm going to ask you, have you ever found yourself in a position where you start to pay attention to your thoughts, which of course is going to be your first step, right? You can't change anything that you're not aware of. So I'm going to ask you to spend a little bit of time over the next few days just checking in on how you're thinking and talking to yourself, thinking about and talking about yourself. Now, as you start to pay attention to this, or if you've paid attention in the past, are you finding that you're kind of harsh on yourself, right? Take a minute, think. Okay, if this was the person that I loved the absolute most in the world, whether that's your mother who is beautiful and wonderful and funny and smart, and you just think so highly of her, it is your daughter that you think so highly of. It's your son that is phenomenal and sweet and caring. And you're like, yes, he is bringing in the new generation. I'm so freaking proud of him. If it's your best friend that has always been there for you, always supported you, that wonderful uncle who has always checked in and always been there, even when you kind of didn't know what you really needed. I don't know why I just like winked, but when you didn't know like what you really needed. So any of these people, even your dog, right? Think of your dog or your pet, your cat, anybody that you have such love for. I want you to think of the person that you love or the thing that you love the most in the world. Now imagine the ways that you talk to yourself. Would you talk to them in that same way? I'm assuming the answer is likely no, right? And when you get into this cycle that you're talking to yourself like that and you're putting yourself down, you are actually putting yourself into fight or flight. So your body does not realize that this is just a thought. And your thoughts don't have to be facts. Your thoughts, they're just that. You get to decide what they are, what they are not. Let me take a step back here real quick and explain something. Your thoughts come in and you actually make meaning of them. It's the same way of anything you experience in life. You assign the meaning to anything that you experience. Somebody texts you and just says, "K," you get to assign what that meaning is. If somebody's walking across the street or you like let them into traffic and they don't give you a thank you wave, you assign that meaning. You get to decide whether that's a personal attack on you or it's just a reflection of their day or it's just kind of nothing that you don't even like really pay attention to, right? And it's the same thing with your thoughts. When you have a thought that comes into your mind, you get to decide the level of importance that you're going to give it. And you assign that by whether you dwell in it or not and what you think of it. Sometimes I have thoughts that pop into my head, like intrusive thoughts. I'm like, I don't know where that came from. That was wild. And I have started to assign that even to ones where I'm like, I don't like the way I look today. Like I'm being harsh on my body. And I'm like, I don't know where that came from. That is wild because I am phenomenal. I love myself and I'm beautiful. And your body is actually going to react to those thoughts. Those thoughts are going to create an actual reaction, a physical reaction in your body. And the more that you return to them, the more that you're wiring that kind of thought. Now, self compassion comes in from saying, I don't need to continue this. I can see myself in a compassionate light. Again, let's think about the person that you love, you just absolutely adore. Imagine if they came to you with the same kind of thing that you're putting yourself down for. Kind of mess that up. Imagine they came to you and were putting themselves down for the same thing that you're putting yourself down for. Okay, so let's imagine there was a presentation at work and you kind of fumbled over a slide, right? You're giving the presentation, you feel like you're really confident, but you're a little nervous, and then you find yourself and you kind of stumble a little bit. Now you walk out of that presentation and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did that. Like, what is wrong with me? I should never present again. I should not even have my job. I can't believe that they've hired me. But think about if it was somebody like your best work friend. Your best work friend, you'd be like, that was not a big deal. You barely stumbled. Nobody even saw it. Nobody even paid attention to it because everybody does that. So why can't you talk to yourself in that same kind of way? That is truly just one little step into self compassion. So, what I want to ask you to do is spend the next couple days catching the ways that you talk to yourself and ask yourself, if this was the person that I love the most in the whole world, would I say the same thing to them? And if not, how would I talk to them? What would I say? What would I give them for encouragement? And how can I shift the perspective of myself in this situation that I'm talking to me and change it so that I'm being kinder and giving myself some compassion? What happens in our brain is whatever we return to continues to create a habit and it continues to create a cycle, right? And I've talked a lot on previous episodes about habits. And the nice thing is that any habit you've created it by continuing it, you can change it. So when you get into this cycle of negative self talk, it's starting to rewire your brain. And it's going to rewire it for a couple things. One, you're going to naturally fall back to that negative self talk. And two, the other thing that it's going to rewire for you is that your brain's going to start to look for things that are telling you that you are correct. Okay, so it's called your reticular activating system, RAS, and it's like your brain bouncer. So essentially, what you continue to tell yourself, your brain's going to continue to look for. Like, have you ever gone out to buy a car and you're like, I'm going to buy a red BMW? And then suddenly, and you're like, I never see red BMWs. But then you start thinking about it all the time. And suddenly you're seeing these red BMWs all over the place. They're everywhere that you're looking. That's because you're telling your mind to start looking for it. And this can actually happen with opportunity, positive interactions, or it can happen with the lack of opportunity for you not being lucky for anything, right? Like you need to assign to your brain, what do you want it to start looking for? So the more that we assign that we're looking for the good, we're looking for the compassion, we're looking for the opportunity in our life, the more that your brain's going to be like, oh, wait, you should go talk to that person because we have a feeling, right? A feeling. That's how it connects to law of assumption. Have a feeling that something good's going to come out of that. Well, if you're stuck in a cycle of negative self talk, you're going to tell yourself, I would never go talk to them. I'm not confident enough. You'd be looking down at the ground. And actually, it's a perfect time to ask you the question, too. Imagine somebody that you meet. Okay, you're meeting them and you walk up and they are beaming, smiling, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to meet you. This is fantastic. I heard that you were going to be here. This is like so amazing. I was going to go get myself some chips and guacamole. Do you want to come with me? And you're like, heck yeah, who doesn't want chips and guacamole? Now imagine that you walked up to somebody and they're like, oh, hey, luckily, I have video for those that are only listening to audio and being very awkward and looking around, right? So, those kind of people are two totally different attitudes, two totally different levels of confidence, and you're going to react different to that person. So, now imagine that the universe, source, God, the world is doing the exact same thing. What are you putting out? How is it going to react? It's like getting a mirror reflection back. If I tell you, hey, oh my gosh, it's so freaking exciting to meet you. I heard that you're going to be here. I want to go get some chips and guacamole and a margarita. Let's go. You're like, yes, I love this person. Like they are so excited and they're so upbeat and they're so happy. And you're going to reflect that back to them. But then if you meet somebody who's just like, oh, I don't think I'm going to stay. I don't want to be here. I don't like people. Okay, you're going to be like, all right, well, I'm going to go get that chips and guac by myself then because you don't want to continue to be in that vibe, right? That's like the vibration that they're putting out. This is how the world reacts to you. And when you get yourself stuck in these cycles and you're not giving yourself any compassion and you're not seeing the brilliance of yourself and you're not seeing how the opportunities can actually flow to you just by changing your perspective slightly, it's kind of what you just continue to create. So I wanted to come back today to say, one, unleashing happiness, we're bringing it. That's what this is about. And two, to say, I want you to start learning how to be more compassionate to yourself. I want you to realize that what has happened in your past can be used as a learning lesson instead of just a cluster of regrets. Right. And I will continue to share the regrets that I've had in my own life, the things that I've done that I'm like, man, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I acted that way. I don't know why I treated that person that way. And actually, I've got one that comes up to mind right now. I don't know if this person will ever listen to my podcast, but years ago, I was probably 16 years old. I lived in Albuquerque for a few years. I'm an Air Force brat. And so I lived in Albuquerque and then I had moved to Colorado. And I remember a friend of mine was like, oh my gosh, there's this guy. I don't even remember his name, unfortunately. And he is just crazy about you. He thinks that you are so pretty and he really wants to meet you next time you come into Albuquerque. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That would be great. Yeah, 16-year-old girl. I'm like, oh yeah, let's meet the cute guy. So I go into Albuquerque and I meet him. And for some reason, I was just in the most foul mood. One of my friends was like supposed to show up and they didn't. And then like I had had kind of a fight with my parents before I had left. And I was just in a really foul mood. And I remember meeting this guy and I was not very polite. It was not a reflection of the type of person that I am at all. And I recall he walked away and he told people, he's like, I don't know why I thought she was a nice person. Like she's really not. She's awful, actually. And I remember when they told me that, I was like, I was awful and I feel really bad. And I didn't have his contact information. I told my friends, I'm pretty sure if my memory serves me right, I'm 45 now. So this is quite a few years ago. I recall telling my friends, I think, like, "Tell him I'm sorry." Like, I am sorry. And that was essentially all I could do about it, right? And then I had to move on. But I've held on to that. Clearly, I'm 45 and I'm talking about it on my podcast. I've held on to that for many years because I'm like, this person now is still walking around with this view of me saying, "Oh my gosh, I was like, thought this girl was really fun and pretty and I wanted to meet her." And it was such a letdown. And so their side of that story, their perspective of the story is totally different than mine. And theirs is completely valid, right? I realize that is not who I am. That is not how I want to present myself. That's not how I want to treat anyone, regardless of whether they think I'm cute or not. I don't want to treat people that way. And I walked around with that for a while because I don't have a way of contact. I don't even know what their name is. But that has sat with me for a while because although I had a lot of external events that led me up to that point, the way that the vibration that I put out in that interaction was so low, so negative, and left a lasting impression on me of a way that I don't want to behave, and left a lasting impression to them of me as a human and me as a person in the way that I treated them. And it was not very nice. So, and what I look though at that is I could sit and be like, I'm just a horrible person and continue to have told myself that. And instead, I said, no, this is a learning opportunity that even if I'm in a bad mood, I can treat people the way that I want to be, right? I can be the person that I want to be. I can show up in the ways that I believe are reflective of the type of human that I am, which is a very, I think, loving, caring, kind, empathetic, funny, slightly sassy human, right? And I don't want to give somebody an interaction with me that's different from that. Even if I'm in a bad mood, even if I'm kind of down, even if I'm struggling that day, because we all have those days. Now, I'm not encouraging that we're fake or that we hide when we're having a bad day or that we try to act like nothing's wrong when there is something wrong. But to me, that was a learning experience. And although I regret it, I don't look at it as something to beat myself up. I'm not like, man, and I could have held on to that for years thinking, I'm a terrible person. Like, I don't know why I ever thought that I was nice. I'm clearly not. Right. And I have other experiences like that. I have other times that I'm like, this is not who I want to be. This is not the kind of person that I want to be or the things that I want to do. But I'm able to look at those as learning experiences. Okay, so what am I learning from this? I'm learning this is not how I want to act. I'm learning this is not how I want to treat other people. And I walk away with that understanding. So we are going to be here unleashing our own inner happiness, figuring out how to be the people that we want to be, giving ourselves some forgiveness, understanding that we can rewrite our own story. We all can. It's available to us. Down in the show notes, I actually put together a free guide. I think, I don't know, it's quite a few pages, but it's got 5 habits that you can do to kind of reconnect with your own spark and your own joy if you're feeling kind of down and struggling. And then it's also got a guide to help you outline what it is you actually want in life. I'll leave the link down for that below because I think it's really helpful in this conversation of saying, okay, I'm not feeling like the person I want to be. I'm struggling. Like maybe you snapped at your kids this morning, or maybe you need to do something with your parents and you just don't have the energy to do it, or your house is becoming a mess because you're like, I am overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. These are 5 very small habits that you can start today, truly, as soon as you download it, to start reconnecting with the type of person that you want to be. So I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you will return. I am so excited to be back. I'm sorry that I've taken such a hiatus. I yeah, I don't know what was going on. I needed to reconnect with my message, reconnect with the things that I want to do, and reconnect with my own personal goals forward and the ways that I want to show up for you. So I appreciate you being here. I hope that if you enjoyed this episode, you will leave a comment or a review, or you will share it out with somebody that you think it would really help as well. So I wish you nothing but the very best, and I will be back.